Right. Hi there, everyone. Today I'm going to have a guest from Applied Aikido Association, and this is Christian Vanhenten, and he's going to tell us about the association and about how he plans to bring Aikido off the mat out into the world through the association. So, welcome, Christian. Good to have you on the show.
Hello,
Hi.
I hope you.
Yes, good morning, good evening. It's morning here in New Zealand, and it's evening there in Belgium where you are. And it's probably afternoon in the US if anybody's in the US at the moment listening. Yes, Christian, tell us about the Applied Aikido Association and what your vision is for this association.
Thank you. Applied Aikido Association is quite young association as we are still developing its structure so that we can offer the what we just want to develop for all uh, people interested by applied Aikido. So I could come back on applied Aikido in itself, but about the association, we just aim to make all application of Aikido being recognized as a kind of field of knowledge because I've seen that in the whole world there are many people who are just applying Aikido their own way, of course, but just trying to bring the value, the philosophy, and also the physical practice also on different domains. Could be management, leadership, enterprise, company, professional
Mhm.
world, but also private life, but also education in school, parenting, and health coaching. So there are
Wow.
really numerous applications.
Yes, so that's fascinating. So normally, most people think of Aikido as like a martial art, something to do with self-defense and throwing people around and stuff like that. So so how do you translate Aikido into all those things that you're talking about?
We could speak about this translation in two domains, and at the same time these two domains are joined, but
Uh-huh.
for to make it easy to understand, I would first start by the philosophy or the wisdom of Aikido.
Right.
It's just a practice that is non-violent, just trying not to to win on somebody, the attacker, but just to just transform the fight into what I call a dialogue. It's a kind of
Hmm.
way of just, okay, fighting is not the best solution. Let's try to understand each other and to exchange.
Yeah.
That's the philosophical dimension, if I can say. Um, and on the other side, there is also this physical practice that is integral part of Aikido. And in my experience, this physical practice is really embodying the principles. So it's not just a physical practice that is sticked on in a kind of artificial way. It's just
Yeah.
the way we practice Aikido, if you practice in adequate way, of course, is just a way of understanding, integrating the principles that we can talk about, explain with words, but it is explained, expressed with physical practice by movement.
Yes. So that's quite an interesting kind of idea because generally in the West we tend to think of um, we tend to think either mentally, so we talk about principles and concepts and rational kind of ideas and logic and things like that. And then the body does its own thing, we do sports and different activities. But here you seem to be bringing the two together, and you're saying that it seems to me anyway, that through this physical practice, you are actually generating a kind of different mental understanding through that physical experience. Is that right?
Um, I think we have to cross over two kind of dualities.
Uh-huh.
We all have this well-known duality from Descartes, who made a distinction between spirit or mental parts, the mind and the body.
Yeah.
I think that it is nowadays quite well accepted that this distinction is quite artificial, but it was useful at this time.
Yes.
But I think that now we are more in another kind of duality. It is the duality of what we call cognitive or mental practices or approaches, and mental and physical and embodied practice. You could say on one side, cognitive, playing with words, learning to ask the good question, to understand the beliefs, all these mental maps that we have in our mind.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have this physical practice. And as an example, you could find some practice like it could be yoga, it could be tai chi, it could be any kind of physical practice. And for so far, I see in the current situation there is a kind of reject process of any kind of mental process by the people in the physical world, the physical practice world, saying,
Yeah.
yes, you are just a brain, and brain is there is no more than brain. And I think that if we practice Aikido the correct way, we just have both at the same time together, and it's a way, at least for me, it's just a way to join the two different worlds together, because Aikido is about for in Japanese, harmony is just joining all the
Yeah.
difference, whatever the difference we have.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Aikido, as we know, does come from Japan. So, what do you think? Do you think that the kind of the philosophical and cultural tradition of Japan is bringing something to the table, that you're saying, okay, we had these dualities, and then here we bring a Japanese kind of practice. So do you think that the Japanese already had that ability to dissolve the dualities, and we've got something to learn from their philosophy, really?
Yeah, maybe I'm in my period of dualities chasing, I don't know, but I also want to put in evidence there is another duality, Eastern, Western.
Right.
And we are not sure that maybe in ancient tradition,
Yeah.
this difference is quite huge. But I think that if you take a Japanese guy or woman from today,
Yeah.
compare with somebody in Europe, in United States, whatever,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we will see as many differences as we believe
Yeah.
are existing. That's first for the third duality. But about now, of course, in the philosophy of Eastern traditions, I would say,
Yeah.
this distinction, the Cartesian dualism is not as present as we have in our Western world.
Right.
And but I think that what is really important is to just understand that what we try to do and what we try to develop with Applied Aikido is not just implementing the Japanese tradition in our culture.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
I think that Aikido is just, yes, was born in Japan by a Japanese guy,
Yeah.
but it's like any kind of important inventions and creations. If it is created by one person, maybe a few weeks or years after it would have been invented by maybe somebody else. We don't know.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
a kind of I think that the humanity was ready for this kind of practice at this moment. So I think we don't have to be just totally focused, even if it's interesting to understand Aikido as a tradition,
Yeah.
just to see the universal dimension in the practice.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, philosophically, I think that there's a lot we can explore there. And then in terms of, practical application, so you said, you can apply it to business, to health. Can you give us some examples of where you've seen it being applied in different domains in the world?
Oh, there are really, really many. So I have difficult choice. If I just take the first level of application, it is conflict management. How
Yeah.
can we handle conflict? It it is about verbal conflict, verbal dispute, or whatever the name. So what is important is just to understand that. Um, when we are attacked in Aikido, we are not just opposing a force to a force. So we
Yeah.
are just trying to just see, okay, what can I do with this energy, the attack, how this energy can be transformed. And I like the
Right.
word transformation because it's just okay. That's your intention.
Yeah.
So in a conflict, let's say for example, when we have as a parent a teenager at home, you want to get back home very late, you don't accept it because it's not safe, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
You just say, okay, no, yes, no, yes. It's a
Yeah.
internal fight. You are never right, and you are always wrong. And then you have to say, okay, who makes the rule, etc. So and it is a very good relationship between Aikido as a practice when we speak in the verbal world with non-violent communication, for example. When you
Mm.
ask, okay, I see you are very angry that I asked you to come back earlier than you thought. What's important in this? What do you feel? And just okay, I understand, but also I invite you to understand what's important for me. It's important for me
Mm.
that you keep safe.
Hmm.
And then you already transform the situation in a kind of polarity, just the fight and the clash,
Yeah.
in something different. I'm not sure it will succeed because with teenager is sometimes very difficult, but at least you just avoid this initial spontaneous fight that is not
Mm.
necessary because it's just amplifying all the difference that we can have. That's
Yes.
one example.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. So yeah, and yeah, and I think conflict is a reaction which and how we manage that can be applied to all sorts of things. It can be applied to negotiations. It can be applied to leadership, um, managing staff, customer relations. Yeah, so I can see it seems that there's a wide range of interest or potential interest in what applied Aikido has to offer.
What
So
I would add
yeah.
also is that it's not only conflict with the external world, it's also
Mm,
conflicts in the internal world.
yeah.
So when I want to have a rest or go on working, for example, that's a fight also, it's an internal fight, but it's the same kind of fight. And we know that as long as we stay on keeping opposing ourselves to maybe the need for having a rest, for example,
Hmm.
it will not improve the situation. It will not get better. So we
Right.
have to first to say, okay, what can I do? How the taking in account that I have this polarity in me.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an example also.
So coming back to the association, you saw, you saw a few years ago, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, you saw a need for the association. So, um, and you've kind of, how would you say, nourished the seed, or you've kept that seed there, and you've I can't remember the word for it, but you've kind of grown the seed, and we get the sense that it's beginning to break through the ground and come out and sprout. So what do you see? How do you see the development of applied Aikido in the very new future, in the very near future?
First, I'm totally convinced that there are plenty of people who already do the job, so
Right.
already apply Aikido, but sometimes maybe they do it indirectly, and sometimes they do it, but they don't speak about it because it's too complicated to explain to the clients, to
Right.
explain to organization, and sometimes it can appear too original to be taken seriously sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and what is also very, very, very tiring is because I've known this experience, and I know that many others have this kind of experience, that always having to explain. Do you know
Mm.
that's not a stupid or original thing? It's just not a game to play. It's just based on really strong foundation
Yeah.
for applying. It's not just a kind of individual original practice.
Right.
So I think that really the soil is ready. The soil is
Okay.
ready to let the people say, okay, what it's the principle I call the critical mass. As soon as we are enough presenting this as a practice,
Mm.
it will become a field of knowledge.
Yes.
And then the big challenge, because I think it's the main difficulty, and at the same time, if it's a hindrance, it's a strength also, is the diversity of the practices.
Right.
Or any kind of practitioner or professional applying Aikido in his own field of domain of expertise is very original in his practice because it's how he's combining
Mm.
all his background with Aikido to propose something. And this is a richness because, but it's also, it can be seen as a problem because, okay, yes, okay, do we have to format it to make it as a whole a unique practice? I don't think so. I think it's a richness, but the
Yeah.
diversity can also be a problem because people like to compare themselves with others. Yes, my practice is better than yours, and this and that. And I
Yeah.
think it's totally not Aiki.
Hmm. Right. Okay. So, how do you think then that the association could help these varied people?
Yeah. I think first that we all agree, all the people we already contacted, they all agree that um, gathering some materials to gather and to just realize how diverse and huge the quantity of
Mm.
information that is already available, but not enough known because separated all over the world. So
Yes.
first, creating a place where we can gather all this information,
Hmm.
and that's one thing, and then gathering the people doing it really,
Right.
so that we can just say, okay, see how many people all over the world are already doing it. So it's just something more
Mm.
than just isolated. So
Yes.
it's the metaphor of the a drop alone cannot do anything, but many drop together creates a wave,
Yeah.
and a wave can be hugely powerful.
Mm.
So it's just gathering the material, so the just all the knowledge together,
Yeah.
and gathering the people so that the people in the external world, the people who don't know about applied Aikido can say,
Yes.
wow, it seems interesting. So many people doing this, it should be interesting. So I'm curious to see. And so we can begin the process, And also, last thing is just not reinventing the wheel.
Mm.
Many times many people already had to face some kind of challenge in a company or challenge in a coaching session that could be shared like in any kind of other approaches. So that's the main goal, and of course, offering from this platform, kind of offering of, hey, there you can find some specialists, some sessions, some service, some books, and so just the people can find what they are interested to discover.
Yeah. Cool. Hang on, I'll just check whether there's any comments or reactions. We don't have any comments yet today. If there's anybody out there, yeah, feel free to shoot us a question if you've got anything in mind. Yeah, so it sounds really exciting. This gathering together of this diaspora of Aikido practitioners, and actually seeing how we can support each other in bringing it off the mat and out into the world. So if someone is interested and they feel that that what they're doing now is some kind of applied Aikido practice, how could they confirm and validate that, and how could they kind of get in touch with the association and find out more?
Yeah. We have a website. We are busy renewing it to take in account all the internal evolution that we defined for the association. So there is a website, www.applied-aikido.org, and we have also a Facebook page. You can find us also on Twitter with the hashtag Applied Aikido in one word. And I probably other place, but that's the main place. So you can always, if you are interested, take contact with us.
Yeah.
We're using the contact form or the email.
Yes.
It's info@appliedaikido.org, so very easy. Or on the Facebook, because it's very, very, very easy too. So we would be pleased to just see how we can develop it. Of course, for the moment, because we have to gather together, it happens only in English, but it's in the intention also to develop some kind of local initiative in other languages.
Yes.
With the time, it will grow out, but for the moment, we have to begin with some kind of modest behavior, but keeping calm.
Yes, because when I spoke to you before, we talked about the possibility of some online events where we could sort of gather together and eat. Different people could present their work on this event and share their work and hopefully gather the public in also to experience that work. So that's still in the plan, isn't it?
Yes, we plan, of course, with this lockdown and all this special time we are enduring. I would say we are planning to offer and to propose some kind of live session, whatever the form, whatever the subject, and just the goal to show the people that the variety of practice that we can just, how can we understand, how can we implement, how can we apply all these practices, just starting by very concrete, pragmatic example and situation, so that the people can just explore. And what is beautiful, of course, is that I spoke before about diversity, and what's important is that all the professionals who are using applied Aikido in their domain, most of the time they have other practice that is complementing their practice. So you can just find some kind of practice that is more posture or attitude or fluidity or psychologically, or whatever the interest of the people, more verbal, more physical, etc., etc. So it's really incredible how rich the diversity of what can be proposed.
Yes.
And that's what we just because I'm totally convinced it's just a period of time where we really need the Aikido values, because Aikido is just how we invest energy to create more harmony,
Yes.
and how how many different domains where we can just apply this as such.
Yes. Sure. And of course we we hope to continue to have these live sessions as we are having today, and hopefully for you to talk a little bit more. Perhaps I can talk a little bit too, and bring in some guests and other members of the Applied Aikido Association to talk about their perspectives. And yeah, so please subscribe to this channel in order to be able to come on board the next time, possibly in a couple of weeks or so. Anything else you would like to share, Christian, before we close the show?
No, thank you for the initiative. Always interesting. Of course, we know that it's always a problem of the chicken or the egg. We have to begin, we have to start,
Yes.
and to start the machine so that it can be developed. And I know, and I'm sure that there are many professionals who are waiting for us,
Mm.
but just waiting in the background.
Yeah.
But I assume they will join very soon.
Yes. I'm very confident of that too. I think this is the right time. So thank you very much, Christian, and we'll talk again. And thank you very much, everyone else, for joining us, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'll just finish this. Finish. End broadcast.